When it comes to buying and selling net lease real estate, it's all about location, location, location. I'm not talking about the physical property location, I'm talking about the websites used to market and sell these properties nationally. The internet has completely changed the way real estate is bought and sold, and in this video we'll look at the main websites used to buy and sell net lease properties and ultimately try to determine which one is the best for the net lease industry. I'd like to preface this with the fact that this is an unsponsored video and all opinions are my own based on my own experience from several years of net lease brokerage and investing. So I'm going to be comparing two platforms in this video for the sake of time. There are dozens of sites used to market net lease properties and maybe 5 or 6 which are actually good for getting deals done. With that being said though, there are 2 main sites which stand head and shoulders above the rest, so I'm only going to look at those 2, which are LoopNet, which is owned by CoStar, and Crexi, which is a relatively new company in the space. In a perfect world, I would do a screen share and show you the main differences, but much of what I want to show you is subscriber content, and I don't really feel like getting in trouble with either of these companies, so let's just talk about it. All right, first things first, let's take a look at the histories of these 2 companies, which is an important place to start to begin to understand the differences between the 2. LoopNet started in 1995, so it's basically as old as the internet itself. It was purchased by CoStar in 2011 for $860 million and is now one of the 22 real estate marketing brands under the CoStar flag. Crexi was founded in 2015 by a guy named Mike Giorgio, I hope I'm saying that right, who previously was at what is now 10X, which is a commercial real estate auction platform. For name recognition, LoopNet gets a point here. It's 5 times older and more established. The reason that matters is, for example, when I go to sell a property, a lot of my older clients want to make sure I'm using LoopNet to do it because for the longest time, that's the only thing that they knew. All right, next let's talk about user interface. LoopNet is 25 years old and honestly it looks and runs like a 25-year-old website still. It's pretty slow and buggy and quite often when I use it I get error messages and have to refresh the page. Crexi on the other hand is newer and therefore very streamlined, very user-friendly, and I get no bugginess. Definite point for Crexi here. All right, now let's take inventory of the inventory. I was actually a bit surprised by this. I thought that LoopNet was going to be the clear winner, but I don't think that's the case. You can't see how many properties are listed for sale on LoopNet at this moment in total, but if you go to their information and marketing page, they show that there's been 1.1 million properties that have been marketed on their site and over 1 million properties sold. Crexi does have a live counter, and as I'm recording this video, there are just over 125,000 active sale listings on the site. I can see them all right here one by one if I wanted to. So to try and put that in perspective, if we take LoopNet's total number of properties marketed, 1.1 million, and annualize that over the same amount of time that Crexi has been in business, that's only 183,000 listings added per year to Crexi's 125,000 on the market today. If we did that same math over the 25-year life of LoopNet, that's only 44,000 properties a year. That's not a perfect example, but it does speak for itself. Let's actually take that a step further with a real-time example. I've just run 2 concurrent searches here for Texas single-tenant triple net investment properties. LoopNet only had 203 results and Crexi has 281 hits. For the sake of accuracy, I even went as far as going through each page one by one to make sure that all the results were in fact single-tenant net lease properties, and sure enough, Crexi wins. I ran the same search nationally for the past 24 hours and LoopNet only produced 27 net lease results to Crexi's 37. So clearly, Crexi is much more of a player than I initially expected. Given that their current inventory is richer than LoopNet's and they're only 1/5 the age, I think the market has spoken for itself here. All right, next let's take a look at cost. So both platforms are free to post and browse listings, but each one offers certain perks with a paid membership. Crexi is the easiest one to look at here because they're just so simple. A paid Crexi license is $400 per month, which gets you the added bonuses like comps, data, lead generation, and a few other treats as well. That's a flat fee. I don't see anything on the website about paid ads or upcharges to rank your property higher in the search. In fact, the only ranking on the site is based on the completeness of your listing, so users are encouraged to add as much data as possible because it only increases the exposure. That, and it gets you unlimited listings with Crexi, which is not the case with LoopNet. I actually saw an interview with the CEO from 2020 where he stated that the goal behind Crexi was to create a platform that was as free as possible and less of a pay-to-play model. They accomplish this through a lot of AI and machine learning, where much of LoopNet's data has always been user-generated. Now, LoopNet, on the other hand, is the exact opposite in many ways. It's free to list and search, but on the listing side, they have a basic, silver, and gold listing package. Basic is free, and silver and gold require you to buy what they explain to be a parking spot on the site. So you have to buy as many parking spots on long-term contracts as listings you want on that high-level exposure. A single silver slot is $178 per month on a long-term contract. If you have, say, 10 silver listings one month and the next month you've sold half of those, guess what? You're still paying for those silver listing spots as long as you're under contract. Same thing with gold, except gold is a 6-month contract for $599 per month for one listing. The reason this matters is because your search results are ranked based not on how accurately they match your search, but based on how much the guy listing them was willing to pay to be at the top of the results. And that's right here on their marketing website. I'm not assuming anything or making anything up here. To me, that's not designed with the user in mind, and it's just a huge flaw. And here's why. I currently have about 14 listings on the market. 12 months ago, we were in a global pandemic, and I think I had maybe 3 or 4 over the course of the summer. So we had to up our silver listing count over the past year with the long-term contracts to accommodate more new listings. If I do my job and sell all 14 of these properties with no more left, guess what? We're still paying for 14 licenses that aren't getting used. All that does is make it harder for me to afford listing properties and discourage brokers from paying more for exposure when they get more business. Major point here for Crexi. All right, let's pivot here for a minute to search functionality. More specifically, how accurate are the results that you're given based on your search criteria? We already know that LoopNet prioritizes searches based on who has the most dope, but let's ignore that for a second and just look at search results. Now, I know that Crexi is better here because I use both platforms every day. If you don't have access to both, then I'm going to paint a picture here using the same example from earlier. I'm doing a search for single-tenant net lease properties only across the entire US, and I'm going to count how many results on the first page are not true single-tenant net lease properties. First off, Crexi returned 167 results and LoopNet only produced 107. From the first 60 listings, LoopNet produced 12 that were not single-tenant net lease properties. There's a large power center, a mobile home park, a duplex, and several vacant properties that popped up for whatever reason. Crexi only produced 2 non-single tenant net lease properties. One was a restaurant business for sale in Florida, and one was a multi-tenant office selling individual condos. I'm honestly a little bit shocked by this. I knew that I already liked Crexi better, but having the data to back it up is pretty remarkable. All right, next let's compare comparables. I'm talking about sales comps. I actually didn't even realize this when I started prepping the video, but LoopNet itself doesn't have sales comps because the sales comps are run through CoStar, which if you were to get it just for the comps alone, it would run you about $500 per month for one license in addition to what you're already paying for LoopNet. Now, CoStar does have the all-time greatest comp database going back over 20 years, but comps are only really valuable for the most recent 3 years, 12 months to be more accurate. Crexi does have comps included. Not 20 years worth, but now a few years worth, which is more than enough to get the data that you need. And it comes standard with the regular subscription. Crexi wins this just because LoopNet itself doesn't have comps, but if you were to pay another $500 a month for CoStar, the data is probably not too dissimilar. Point Crexi. So I really did walk into this open-minded. I knew that I liked Crexi better, if I'm being honest, but I really did expect LoopNet to have a better inventory and put up more of a fight. Now we can plainly see with data that that's not the case. If I had one choice for my business, it would be Crexi, no doubt. It's cheaper for what you get, easier to use, and has many better features, many of which I didn't even mention, and support staff, as infrequently as I've needed them, have always been incredibly helpful. Today, I'd say about 80% of my business is conducted through Crexi alone, and I honestly just don't need LoopNet anymore to do what I do and run a successful net lease brokerage business. I also know several regional net lease brokerages who feel the same way and have completely canceled their CoStar and LoopNet subscription and only use Crexi. Now it's very clear why. If I didn't have a large firm paying the bills for me, I would probably be doing the same. All right, so I hope this information has been helpful and more importantly helps you investors get more deals done. For more information on things like this, visit netleasebeast.com and subscribe to our YouTube channel where we release new videos each week, as well as our weekly newsletter where I personally put more content like this in your inbox along with a few other treats as well. You're also welcome to reach out to me directly if I can ever help you regarding any of your real estate needs. That's all for today, and we'll see you next time.